Hi there. Today this is a birthday of Magnus Carlsen, possibly the greatest chess player of all times. And that's why, of course, I would like to congratulate him with all the great achievements that he had, with all the nice games that he keeps playing for our enjoyment. And at the same time, I wanted to show something really great from the chess practice of Magnus Carlsen to you. And I've selected the best game that Magnus Carlsen played ever. At least I think it's one of them, because it's really beautiful and instructive. He played this game against Judith Polgar, which is also a pretty interesting thing, because this game was played between arguably the best male and female chess players of all time. And moreover, it was a blindfold game, so they were playing it without looking at the chessboard, which makes it even tougher for chess players for sure. I'm Igor Smirnov, international grandmaster and the chess coach from the Remote Chess Academy, and without further ado, let's go to the game. Carlsen is playing white, while Polgar is black, and currently it is white to play. So what can we see right now? White sacrificed the pawn, and now white is ahead in development, but at the same time black's position is also quite solid. Black has a powerful bishop in the center, and right now black is attacking the white's pawn on b2. How would you play in such a situation if you're playing white? Now just think about it and try to come up with a few guesses of which moves would you consider here if you're white, and then let's check out what happened in the actual game. All of a sudden, Carlsen, instead of protecting the b2 pawn, Carlsen played c5, sacrificing another pawn, which black can easily capture either with his queen or bishop. Now, what's the point of this sacrifice? The idea is white doesn't want to defend. Instead, white finalized already the opening development, and it is time to come up with attacking plan of the middle game. And therefore, Carlsen thinks how to go forward and start attacking. And that's the point of the move c5. The reason is, white wants to deflect black's queen from the 6th rank, where it protects the knight on f6, and after that, white will be ready to capture that knight, destroying black's castling position. Although black can capture the pawn with her bishop, in that case it won't help anyway, because white can continue with a knight to a4, attacking the queen and the bishop of black, and therefore anyway the queen will have to go away from the 6th rank. So ultimately it will end up to a position similar to what happened in the game, and that's why let's go back to the actual game. In the actual game, once white played c5, black captured with the queen. And then white realized his original idea. He played bishop takes f6 and then pawn takes f6. Now we have a very interesting position where white already sacrificed 2 pawns for the attack, while at the same time we can see that there are no white pieces around black's king and they're nowhere near. So it looks a bit sudden, like how can white create a powerful attack if white doesn't have any pieces around or close to black's king? But pay attention to one interesting fact. If you focus your attention on the right half of the board, you would notice that black currently has no pieces there, and it's very difficult to transfer black's pieces towards the king side. White found a way to hamper black from doing so even more while playing knight to d5. Now you may notice that this knight on d5 is not only attacking the pawn on the f6, which is certainly a good thing for white, but at the same time it prevents black's queen from going backward to e7, where it could potentially protect black's king side. And finally, the knight from d5 is blockading the pawn on the d7, making it harder for black to establish coordination between the king side and the queen side. Anyway, let's see what happened after that. Black played d6, trying to bring the bishop, the light-scored bishop, into play, and white continued with queen h5. Now white can start bringing pieces towards black king on the king side, while black can hardly do the same thing. Black played king g7 because the f6 pawn is still hanging, and white continued with bishop e4 with a direct checkmate threat. Black countered it with pawn to h6, and white can bring up one more piece into the attack by playing rook c1, which is threatening black's queen. And at this point, it already looks like it's time for black to resign, because in case the black's queen goes away somewhere, let's say queen to a5, here white has a final combination which wins the game on the spot. It's rook takes c8 to eliminate the last piece which controlled some squares on the king side. And now if black takes back the queen, the white's rook, white can continue with queen f5, and we can see that black's king is defenseless. White is threatening queen f6 check or queen h7, and it's gonna be checkmate very soon. So at this point it looks like white is just winning, and it's time for black to resign, because the queen is attacked and the only logical move to remove the queen somewhere is losing immediately. And at this exact moment of time, Judith Polgar proved that she is also a great player, and she found a shocking resource, the move bishop takes f2. So what's the point of this idea? Well, first of all, this is a check to white's king, so white has to react somehow, and if white makes the most natural move just by capturing that bishop, black would capture the white's rook, which left unattended. Now it's unprotected and black can capture it, so already winning some material. But even more importantly, after that, black can finally bring one of his pieces to the king side, consolidate his position there, and now it's just winning for black. Black has extra material and she protected her king side. As you can see, the chess games can be really tricky, and sometimes one tricky resource can turn the situation to an opposite angle. At the same time, this trick is not so difficult to calculate, and therefore Carlsen just stayed cold-blooded and simply retreated with the king. Now black made another interesting move. It's queen to d4, not only removing queen from danger, but at the same time attacking white's bishop on e4. And now it looks like white either has to trade off the bishops or waste some time to protect the bishop. However, Carlsen found a clever way to not only protect the bishop, but at the same time continue his attack. This is a multi-purpose move, queen h4. And as you can see, the queen works in two directions. It's protecting the bishop on e4 and at the same time making threat of queen takes f6 with deadly threats. So queen h4 is an excellent move, which just really wins the game for white, because now it's really difficult for black to defend. Anyhow, Polgar tried to continue the battle. She played f5, also removing the pawn from danger and at the same time attacking the white's bishop, and the bishop cannot go away because the queen will be exchanged. However, white can go inside with queen f6 check, and now finally white reached the black's king and the game should be over soon. So now white starts the direct attack of black's monarch, and after these exchanges and with checks and king g7, finally white simply took the bishop on f2, gaining an extra piece and getting a winning position. Black played e4, trying her last chance, the last trick to push the pawn forward and somehow disorganize white's forces. And let's also not forget that this was a blindfold game, meaning that both players were not looking at the board, and therefore, despite of black's losing position, still she could hope for a mistake or an oversight from the side of Carlsen. In light of that, it's even more interesting to see the following move of Carlsen. He not just started to realize his extra knight, but he found a way to finish the game in style with a beautiful combination. He played rook c4. All of a sudden, it's hitting black seemingly on the queen side, but the real idea is to checkmate black's king on the king side. The point is, now black needs to remove the queen from this diagonal, from the diagonal where it was protecting the f6 square, this critical square which white wants to go into to checkmate black's king. And now when black captures the rook, white continues with queen f6 check, king h7 is the only move, and then knight to f5 with a dual threat of queen g7 checkmate or queen h6 checkmate. And black has no defense. If black protects the g7 square, then white delivers checkmate on h6. Let's have a look at the critical position where it all started once again. At this position where situation looked totally unclear, Carlsen showed great creativity and found a brilliant move c5 to seize the initiative, and then he delivered the final attack in a perfect manner, not leaving any counter chances for his dangerous opponent, the greatest woman player of all time, Judith Polgar. When I look at such games, what always was interesting for me is to understand how the winner was able to find such moves in his games. So not only to be a spectator, but also to learn something, to understand how can this guy do this, because if we understand this, it will mean that you can apply the same thinking process in your own games and win the games yourself like that. And here I have some good news for you. In honor of the birthday of Magnus Carlsen and ending of the World Championship match, I'm providing a huge 40% discount to my complete trading courses that contains this information. How do world best chess players think while playing a game of chess, so that you can learn and adopt the same way of thinking, and therefore your results will also go up to the level of advanced expert level players. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to write birthday greetings to Carlsen in comments. Enjoy your day. Goodbye.